Hello YouTube, Shadow Hero 90 here, and welcome to my show, Sexism in Movies and TV. You see, there is a reason why I do this show. Now, despite the fact that a lot of the stuff I review is for adults, a lot of the stuff I rip apart is aimed at kids. And truth be told, boys do not get good role models out of these shows. In fact, growing up on schlock like this actually runs the risk of your typical young man growing up with very low self-esteem, and possibly coming to hate himself when he reaches adulthood. And that's why I do this show, to expose the hypocritical and unbelievable level of hatred thrown at both boys and men through both movies and TV, in the hopes of making a difference. Okay, in this episode of Sexism in Movies and TV, I'm going to be reviewing the Simpsons episode, Bart Gets Hit by a Car. Now, you may not really think that this episode is all that sexist, but let me first just give you a little rundown of the episode. While skateboarding, Mr. Burns accidentally hits Bart with his car. Then Bart has a dream in which he goes to heaven, or is going to heaven, disobeys the rule by spitting over the escalator down to earth, and is instantly sent to hell. Bart did claim to be innocent, and this is all just a dream. Bart Simpson did claim to be innocent, and this is all just a dream. But when you take a look at the look on his face, he's kinda terrified. He even says, say, is there anything I can do to avoid coming back here? I mean, he actually wants to get out of going back to hell. He is that terrified of this, even though it's all just a dream, and everything he's experiencing is just coming from his subconscious. Then the Simpsons meet corrupt attorney Lionel Hutz, who offers to represent them in court and sue Mr. Burns, but they turn down his offer. Homer admits that he would have gone through with it if he wasn't so spineless. Mr. Burns offers Homer a check for $100, but when Homer brings up Bart's medical bills, Mr. Burns accuses him of extortion and takes back the check for a mere $100 declaring that he has the finest lawyers in town and would crush Homer if he tried to sue him. Homer gets pissed off and recruits Lionel Hutz. And so the trial commences, and the Simpsons are actually winning. Homer and Lionel Hutz have Bart tell the story from their point of view, an exaggerated point of view, and Mr. Burns has his lawyer tell his own exaggerated version of what happened. The Simpsons are still winning. Mr. Burns' lawyers advise him to go for a settlement, so he invites Marge and Homer over to his house. And instead of going for the cash settlement, Mr. Burns only offers them $500 with a smiley face drawn underneath it. But this was all a trick, as Mr. Burns and Smithers are spying on them. Homer gets pissed off because they all know that Burns was going to lose the case and have to pay them $1 million. And then that idiot Marge brings up the shifty lawyer and the phony doctor. So then Mr. Burns comes out and tells them that they're not getting anything from him after he ran over their son. I got a weird feeling that if he had run over Lisa, this episode would be going the exact opposite route. Later, at the final hearing, Marge is called to the stand, and after everything that's happened, you'd think she'd be willing to take one for the team after everything Mr. Burns had done, but no, she tells the truth. Homer's pissed off that Marge cost him $1 million. Homer goes to Moe's. Marge shows up and Homer forgives her. Okay, now one thing that The Simpsons is criticized about, or was criticized about in the early 21st century, is essentially how fucked up Homer and Marge's relationship is. I mean, he lost $1 million. His idiot wife cost him $1 million, essentially in a trial where they were suing the old man who hit their son with a car. Now, I understand that this episode could easily be poking fun at trials in which both parties try to tell the events from their own point of view, but come on, hitting a kid with your car, then trying to say that he was a punk who deserved it, then essentially insulting his parents with a lame settlement and spying on them, which is illegal, by the way, this completely puts Mr. Burns in the wrong. Marge should have taken one for the team, lied, and essentially gotten $1 million from this asshole, the one who's the only one in this episode who deserves to suffer. I mean, just take a look at the look on her face. Even she's pissed at him. She thinks that this whole ordeal made Homer greedy. And you know what? She's still morally in the wrong. Sometimes you gotta hit people as hard as they're willing to hit you. Okay, I want anyone watching to tell me in the comments, is getting a little greedy in a lawsuit where you're suing someone rich and you have to go for a few low blows worse than, oh, I don't know, say getting mad at him for dancing with an attractive woman and throwing him out of the house when she herself was considering having an affair less than, oh, I don't know, 36 hours ago? What about taking advantage of her boyfriend's love for her by having him get a job he hates, only to end up dumping him so that she can date her cultural history professor? A liberal douchebag who sees the founding fathers as evil, but this pervert has actually no morals whatsoever. This guy was willing to date one of his own students, and even though they were in college, I'm pretty sure a teacher dating a student is illegal and could cost him his job. That in itself is greedy. So I guess we can throw hypocrisy onto the pile as well. Another thing that is by no means as evil as, getting a little greedy during a lawsuit is the fact that Marge broke up with Homer to date one of her teachers who had no intentions of settling down like Homer would have. Just imagine how this douchebag would have reacted when he found out Marge was pregnant. He would have essentially gone out of his way to run to either Canada or Mexico or as far away from the United States as humanly possible. And then he admits that he only got tenure, that he didn't get tenure because the department head is an idiot. Actually, the head of his department is smart for denying this pervert tenure. If anything, Marge might have known about the pregnancy and might have tried to fool this pervert into thinking he was Bart's real father. In all fairness, everything in the episode That 90s Show, outside of Marge Simpson's redemption at the end, is far worse than getting a little greedy during a lawsuit. I mean, 1,000,000 times worse. coupled with everything Marge has done after season 19. In all fairness, I know that this is season 2, but Homer and Marge have been together for more than a decade. If I were in Homer's position, I would just get right up there and deck Marge in the face. With what I just said, it's hard to believe that Marge didn't know about the pregnancy and was coaxing her teacher along with the hopes that he'd marry her and essentially become Bart's father, without knowing the fact that he's not really his father, but the only reason she didn't is that after hearing his thoughts on marriage, she knew that if she told this guy that she was pregnant and he was the father, he would have ran for the hills. Which is the only reason she even went back to Homer, because she wanted to be supported and didn't want to get slut-shamed, even though Marge Simpson deserves it. So yeah, what Homer's doing was by no means the equivalent of anything Marge did. And speaking of Bart, this is the real final big time kick in the balls that this episode gives you. At dinner, after the trial ended, Bart actually admits that he would have wanted to win the lawsuit. He says, "You know what would have been really cool? If we got that $1,000,000. And Marge just says, "Bart, please." In all fairness, this is just damn hypocritical. I mean, Bart Simpson, despite the fact that they try to write him as a genuine horse's ass who doesn't listen to any authority whatsoever, and they try to write Marge as this holier-than-thou, sympathetic and tragic character, I can see events like this being the reason why Bart wouldn't listen to authority, especially her. Because every time that he listens to his idiot mother, he gets fucked over by it. But this ending is quite the insult. I mean, if they wanted to give this episode a good ending, this would not be it. The good ending to this episode would be Homer bringing Marge to Moe's every night and having her dance naked, as well as Homer charging some of the drunk bums at Moe's to grope Marge until she's made the $1 million, and then Homer and Bart split it. That would be a good episode. That would be a good ending to this crap fest. But no, this worm takes her back. And saying he loves her more than ever, only shows how spineless he is and how insulting the goddamn dumbass dad trope is. That's it. Review over.